As I mentioned, my very special guest this morning for Happy Hour Conversation is the founder and chairman of the APO Group, Nicolas Pompigne-Mognard. Good morning to you, Nicolas.
Good morning.
Oh, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Comment ça va?
I'm okay. Ça va bien.
You're good. Wonderful. Good to have you. Always a pleasure when you come around for conversations. How's Ghana treating you?
Well, very well. Very well. I had amazing food recently.
What did you have?
I don't remember the name. I'm sorry, but it was great.
Okay.
It was great.
What made it great? Was it the blend of taste? What is it?
The I don't know, gravy style stuff. The flavor was really great.
What did you have the gravy with?
But
Was it rice? What was it?
I had plain rice and plantain, like fried plantain.
Yeah.
But that I know, right? There was a thing like vegetable stuff, but I don't know the name.
The stir fry kind of thing? Kinda.
But it was very good.
Okay. Was that good?
I had too much.
Too much?
It was very good.
I often don't hear you say you've had too much of something. So if you had it means it was that good.
It was good.
It was that good. Great. Thank you for joining us. For anyone who's listening today who has no idea what the APO Group is, fill me in. What's the APO Group?
So APO is an acronym. It stands for African Press Organization.
Press Organization.
Let's start with that.
Yeah.
We are the leading Pan-African communication consultancy and press release distribution service. So we have two business units. One is press release distribution, I should say media content distribution. So our job is to distribute press releases, pictures, videos, audio files to journalists in Africa or reporting on Africa. So we have a media list of 450,000 contacts, journalists which are receiving our content.
Almost 500,000.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the second business unit is public relations, and so we have last year in 2022 we had 320 clients, so for instance we are managing all the public relations in Africa for organizations like FIFA, like NBA, Basketball Africa League, but also corporations like Canon. We are working with Nestle, we are working with DHL, we are working with Netflix, Meta, etc., etc. So 320 clients, and the specificity is that we are Pan-African in everything we are doing. So if you ever open a newspaper or on TV or radio, heard the news about the activity of Facebook or DHL or Netflix or the African Development Bank or the Islamic Development Bank or whatever, most likely it was coming from APO Group as the PR agency or press distribution service for those companies. So that's what we do.
Okay. And you've been at this for how long?
16 years, almost 17 now.
Okay. I know the story, but of course, you're not just talking to me, you're talking to a lot of people who are watching and also listening to us. How did this journey begin?
Well, I was a journalist.
You're no more a journalist?
They said once a journalist, always a journalist.
Yeah.
And it's a fact that you keep a set of mind, you know. I have a tendency to interview people.
Yes, that's true.
A tendency to ask questions.
That's true, yeah.
A lot of questions, you know. So I was a journalist based in Paris. I was a correspondent in Paris for media based in Gabon, called Gabon News, and my job was to report on actuality news happening in Europe about Africa, etc. So I was in contact with all the European institutions and also all the international institutions with an headquarter in Europe, like FAO, etc. And it was at the time of at this time the international media were depicting Africa in a very poor manner. You know, it was all about AIDS and conflicts, etc. It's the same period the Economist had that front page about Africa, the hopeless continent, etc. Yeah. But me, as an African journalist in Europe, I knew that because I was in Europe, I was able to see the way. And to really be impacted by the way the international media were depicting Africa. But on the other hand, I knew that there were already good news about the African continent because I was meeting regularly the president of the African Development Bank. I knew that there were reports about an emerging middle class, some investment, etc., etc. And so what I did is I assumed that the international media were not receiving those good news. So what I did is I contacted all the African institutions, so African Development Bank, African Union Commission, Pan-African Parliament, the West Africa Development Bank. I mean, all those organizations. I gathered their press releases. I standardized them in one format, which is the NewsML format, which is the format for exchange of news across the world. And then I created a feed of news releases. I went to Bloomberg, I went to Reuters, I went to LexisNexis, Factiva, which are the largest news aggregators, and I offered them that feed for free. I told them, listen, here are some good news about Africa. Those are the official statement, official press release of the African institutions. Please make that available to the international media. And the idea was to rebalance the narrative. So that's how it all started.
Was it initially accepted easily? Or it took a while?
Well, at the time already, when you came to the like of Bloomberg or Reuters or all the company I just mentioned, with a feed which was very structured, no one provided that. No one had that type of content. No one has the interest of the idea to do what I just did because no one was interested in Africa. But it has a huge asset. From the point of view of those companies, it was free. You see, I made it free. You see,
initially,
and today it's a huge asset for those companies because today, time has passed, and having African content, having content about the African economy, African business, and all sorts of industry, it's extremely valuable. I think today none of those companies will agree to get rid of the content or whatever. It is valuable. In fact, we're going to celebrate next month the 10 years of our partnership with Bloomberg. We are on Bloomberg Terminal, which is that service you have in all the stock exchanges across the world.
Interesting. Now, for what you've done for the past 16 years, what has that taught you about that expression that content is king?
Well, certainly in our world, I mean the media world, the world of media and public relation, etc. Yes, content is king in a sense. So maybe not. I mean, I don't recall exactly what that first person which said content is king actually meant. But it is a fact that in the world I'm living in, content is extremely valuable. I mean, media houses are companies. People tend to forget about that, but they are companies, businesses, investment, talents, etc., etc. But one of the commodity, what they are selling, what they need to operate is content. I mean, if you own a newspaper, a daily newspaper, on a daily basis, you need to fill those pages. You start your day with empty 20, 30 empty pages. You need to find content to put in it. If you have a TV, you have 24 hours of air, you need content. Radio, same stuff. The only difference is the type of content is different. So for a newspaper, you're going to have text and pictures because no one wants to read a newspaper with only text, right? For radio, it will be audio file. For TV, it will be video, etc. So the format change, but the concept is the same. And the problem is content costs money. So if I own a TV channel and I want to send my crew to the other side of the country to film something, it's costing me money. I have to pay those people. I have to pay for the transportation. I have to pay for the material, the investment, etc. And then if I want to be able to report on stories which are happening, I don't know, in Europe, in Gabon, in another country, etc., I need to pay for that content. So the point, but without the content, I have no viewers. People are not listening to radios or watching TV for ads.
No,
right? They want fresh content, qualitative content. They want news. They want to learn things. So yes, content is certainly king, and media houses are fighting for good content, for good speakers, for good videos, for good audio files, for good pictures, etc., etc. So definitely in that economy, in that ecosystem, in that industry, content is extremely valuable, and the link between the synergy, let's say, between the media world, the world of the media, and the world of the public relation, it's very much about that. It's about content and access. You see at APO, for instance, for 16 years now, we are providing free content to the media. It's qualitative content. Those are statements from World Health Organization, African Development Bank, European Commission, African Union Commission, etc., etc. And that content is free. If a media need to subscribe to Reuters feed or AFP feed or Associated Press feed, it's extremely expensive. What we do, and one of the reasons why we have a so close relationship with the media landscape in Africa is because for 16 years we are helping them to pay the bill. We are providing them with free content which they can use. It's qualitative content.
Yeah.
When we are distributing a press release, it is popping up on the Bloomberg terminal at the very same time. It popping up on the email of journalists in the remote area of Benin or Cameroon or whatever. So they receive the information
in real time
at the same time as the most prominent media in the world. And we are what is referred to as a primary information provider, meaning when Facebook Meta is sending us a press release, at that moment no one has a press release. They are paying us to make that news available to the world.
Yeah.
So the moment we are pushing the button, it is popping up on Bloomberg, but it's also sent simultaneously to the smaller blogger in the remote area of Mali. You know, so as a press release distribution, we are providing content, all sort of content, text, image, video, soundbite, to cater for prints or newspapers, magazines, to cater for TVs, to cater for websites, to cater for radios, and as a public relation agency, we are providing access, meaning our colleagues in the PR division, a huge part of their activity is to contact the media to say, how would you like to interview the president of Canon about whatever they are doing? How would you like to interview the president, the managing director of the World Health Organization in Africa? How would you like to interview, etc.? So an access interview is also content. Eventually, it's content on a TV, on a radio, on a newspaper, etc. So we are huge, the largest by far content provider when it comes to African-related news stories, etc. Not only to African media, but to the world. As you know, we are providing content in a lot of different industries. I'm referring to corporation, but when it comes to sport, APO being the Pan-African Public Relations Agency of FIFA, NBA, Basketball Africa League, Rugby Africa, the Olympic movement in Africa, Olympique de Marseille. I mean, we are the largest, biggest content producer and distributor of news related to sport in Africa. And so we distribute that to the African media, but also to the international media which are reporting on sport. And that's content distribution. But if you are a journalist based in the UK, the US, Russia, or Kenya, or whatever, and you want to interview the president of FIFA, or you want to interview the president of the Basketball Africa League, or you want to interview the president of the Association of National Olympic Committee of Africa, or you want to interview the president of Rugby Africa, you send me WhatsApp.
And it's done.
But that's what I do. That's what we do. You know?
Fantastic. Now, on sports, that's big deal for us here in Africa. I just want to pick your thoughts on this. Of course, you mentioned the agents that you work with as your clients. But everyone seems to be a big consumer, and by that I'm talking here in the Ghanaian context, being a big consumer of the sports that's been properly marketed and distributed from Europe for the world. So English Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga. I mean, that's for football. The World Athletics Championship that just happened last weekend, tennis, golf, you name it. All of them were virtually consuming. How do we have, or what ought to be done for African sport to be properly marketed and better consumed?
So the first thing is, when you were referring to that, the first thing which came to mind is African are looking, a lot of African playing sports in Europe. You know, but that's another story, I guess. Sorry for another day. But listen, it's an ecosystem which is in the making. Really, it's happening now. You know, as we know, according to the United Nations, the population of Africa will be 40% of all humanity by 2100. So the demographics are there. They are there, and no one can ignore those figures. The multinational companies, the corporations, in the last 10 years invested heavily in Africa because they understand it's a market, it's the last frontier for growth for them. But very recently, like 5 years ago, you had also the international sports federations, which look at Africa and say, okay, well, with that growing population, again, we cannot disregard that we need to invest. And so FIFA want all those people to play football, and NBA was all those people to play basketball, and Rugby Africa was all these people to play rugby, etc. So a lot of international sport federation or company, because NBA is not NBA is a corporation, it's not a sport federation, but most of the international sport federation, they understood the potential of Africa, and they are now investing on the continent. I mean, the president of FIFA made a big announcement about the infrastructure development plan he wants to implement in Africa. He wants to build one stadium at FIFA standard in each African countries. The NBA announced the launch of their very first league outside of North America, and it's not in Europe, it's not in Asia, it's not in Latin America, it's in Africa. You have NFL, which is now investing in Africa. In fact, Ghana, I think, is one of their entry point for the continent. So many things are happening, and you have also all those international events which are now coming to Africa. So for the very first time, Africa will host an Olympic competition. To be the very first time an Olympic competition is organized on African soil. It will be the Youth Olympic in Dakar in 2026. You have also, and that's crazy, but you have also the World Cycling Championship, which will be hosted in Rwanda. So it's a little bit surprising. You have Egypt, which announced a few months ago that they were bidding to host the Olympic Games. And then you have all those events, African events like the Africa Cup of Nations, etc., etc. So you have a huge ecosystem in the making with venue management, with talent management, athletes management, with a lot of different fan management, softwares, etc., etc. So on a each month I'm contacted by one or two entrepreneurs, which so I just resigned from NBA and I was in charge of fans, and now I'm an African, or I'm from African descent, and now I'm creating my company and I'm selling my products to that rugby club, that football club, etc. So there is an emerging ecosystem. But to answer your question more directly, what is at stake now? The thing we need to do to be able to realize that potential is really about professionalizations and talents. You see, we live in a world where, and I understand that. I guess it's human. If you love football, or if you love rugby, or if you love basket or whatever, and you have been a player. And one day someone is asking you, okay, someone needs to be the Secretary General of the Federation, and you go there, and maybe you are I don't know, you are not trained to do it, but you try to do what you can, and etc., etc. And one day the president, we need a president, and now you are the president, and etc., etc. The problem is that you may love the game, you may love your discipline, etc. That doesn't mean you are the best person
to run it,
to run the federation, to grow that thing you actually love. It's a craft. Being a sport administrator, I mean, it's managing a federation, managing a budget, managing etc. It's a craft. You need skills to do that. And sometimes you could become the best enemy of your own baby. You love football so much, you love rugby so much, you love basketball so much, etc. Sure, you are very knowledgeable about, 20 years ago that guy won the whatever. Okay, sure, fine. You're passionate about it. You eat basketball, you sleep basketball, you whatever. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean you are the right person to make sure those athletes have the best opportunities. To manage the budget, to build competitions, to bring sponsors, etc., etc. Because all of those activities require skills. In human activities, companies, all sorts of organizations, performance comes from specialization and processes. So we are in a situation where I think more and more federation, global bodies, or national federation, local federation, understand that if we want to make it, if we want to grow, if we want to develop, if we want to reach the potential, we're gonna have to change a few things. We're gonna have to train. I was in a country recently, as you may know. I'm working very closely with the president of Rugby Africa, the Ghanaian Herbert Mensah.
Yes, Herbert Mensah.
Which was elected a few months ago, and appointed me a special advisor. So I'm involved in a lot of different countries on behalf of Rugby Africa. And in one of those countries, I was discussing with the National Olympic Committees, the managing director of the National Olympic Committee. He was telling me, listen, in our country, since a few years, we have a law. If you want to be president or whatever of sports federation, you need to have the diploma which goes with it. You need to have a diploma which goes with it, because sport is too important.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, that's another thing. In the last I would say 5 years, because it's not that old, sport for some country, Africa is not a country. Africa is 54 countries. You will always have discrepancies, right? But on African soil, as we speak, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries. I'm referring to Morocco, I'm referring to Rwanda, and a few others, Egypt, etc., which understand how sport can be used for development. Sure, because sport is health, sport is education, sport is values, conflict resolution, etc. Sure, I mean, when you put teenagers to sport, they are not going, robbing people, stealing people, getting fat, eating chips, watching TV or whatever, So it's a good thing.
Keeps them healthy.
It's when it comes to rugby, the tagline is "We build characters."
Yeah.
And it's true. Myself, I did 10 years of rugby. I had to reach 35 years to realize everything it brought me as a man, the values, etc., etc. So there is that. There is the fact that it's a growing economy, as Herbert Mensah mentioned recently at a Bloomberg event in Morocco. Sport is big business. Rugby is big business. But the potential of sport is go way beyond development. So, for instance, you have a lot of countries which understand now the power of sports tourism. So, which understand that you bid to host an event, like the Africa Cup of Nations, for instance, and then that it means that you have people coming from all around. Rwanda hosting the World Cycling Championship means that during several weeks, Rwanda will be the capital of cycling in the world. The world of cycling, all the media covering cycling, all the industry, all the teams, all the sponsors, etc., will be in Kigali for 1 month, 2 weeks, whatever, and they're going to spend money. They're going to spend money in hotels. They're going to spend money in restaurants, in cars, etc., etc. And some of them will come back with their families because they're going to like the country, etc., etc. So sport tourism is getting extremely big. So there are countries which build a national sports strategy. I was recently with the president of Rugby Africa, Herbert Mensah. We were meeting the Minister of Sport of Morocco. I mean, here is a country which has a very clearly defined strategy for the future. They understand the power of sport. They understand how to use sport. Not only for the sake of their population and their use, but also to do business and to do influence. Soft power. I mean, we all know what the UAE are doing and how they are using, and the Middle East how they are using sport, etc.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, exactly. So you saw the announcement recently, I guess. Yeah. So sport is not. Sport is serious. It's a serious thing, and that's one of the reasons why Herbert Mensah, the president of Rugby Africa, is urging really African governments to invest and to support their sport federations, because it's more than playing with the ball, etc. There is an entire economy. When you see one athlete, which is training, etc. But that athlete need a manager to manage, to negotiate his contract, etc. He need lawyers. We need infrastructures.
Yeah.
Infrastructures so he can play.
Yeah.
He need equipment, so shoes and whatever.
Yeah.
He need to travel. He need proper nutrition.
Yeah.
He need all sort of things for that thing to happen.
Yeah.
And that drag sponsors, etc. So I mean, it's one of those activity where I don't have the figures unfortunately, but we all know that the amounts of money, which is generated by NBA for instance in the US, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
The amounts of money in rugby is crazy.
In the NFL.
The NFL is crazy. So we can do that here. We have everything. Africa again is not a country. The population is going to double in the next 20 years or something like that. Again, according to the United Nations, by 2100, Africa will be 40% of all humanity. But the thing is, when you look at the continent and you look at I think in English you call that the morphotypes, so the type of bodies, the shape and form of bodies, etc., and even the muscle density, etc. We have, I mean, there is a reason why, you're going to have the Rugby World Cup starting in France in a few weeks. There is a reason why you have 4 or 5 players from African descent in the French team, 4 or 5 players from African descent in the UK team, etc., etc. And there is a reason why NBA is African are taking over in the NBA.
Athletics.
African. There is a reason why NFL is interested in is coming now into Africa, right? I mean, they are not philanthropists, I'm telling you.
It's business.
I spoke to them. They are not philanthropists at all. Not at all. Not one bit, So we have a resource here, which are athletes. I saw, I was in Zambia and Uganda, etc. I don't know if you have those type of morphotype around here, but in those countries, I'm referring to Zimbabwe, Angola, Uganda and Zambia. It's not uncommon that you are in a restaurant, you are whatever, you have a guy entering the room, you will swear the guy is a bodybuilder. You will. If I'm asking you, is that guy a bodybuilder? Say, yeah, it's obvious to you, he's a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Then you go talk to the guy.
He's not.
He never moved weight in his life. So you have those type of bodies, Then you put those guys. You actually put them in a gym. And then you put them on a rugby field or whatever. They're gonna beat the shit of anyone.
Language.
Oh, well, sorry. Yeah. So we have those morphotypes which allow us to perform. Unfortunately, most of them doesn't have the choice. They have to go performing outside of Africa to make a living outside of Africa. So what is at stake really is to organize competitions, to structure the business of sport in Africa, structure federations, structure competition in a way that those athletes can stay in Africa, make a living in Africa, in their own country, so we don't have to, watch them, play in the European Championship or etc. So that's basically, and it's happening as we speak. It's we are starting. It starts with having the right sport administrators, and I think Herbert Mensah is a very good example of that. He has been elected 4 months ago. And I can tell you that in 4 months, he did more than the previous president of Rugby Africa did in 5 years.
Wow.
So, no doubt about that.
Wow.
No doubt. So it's really a matter of having the right talents, having the right people, change of mindset, pushing the governments to support that sector, and we're going to get there, no doubt.
No doubt about it. Okay, now let's talk a bit more about the work you do and the partnership you have with the Catholic Church in Africa. I mean, we know the impact and the spread of influence that the Catholic Church has in Africa. What have you found intriguing about the partnership you've had with the Catholic Church?
Well, you see, you just said we know. I'm not sure you know.
You sure?
I think a lot of people think they know.
But they don't.
but I'm not sure they know. Do you think you have a clear understanding of the role, the weight the Catholic Church has in the health sector? How many hospital, dispensary, etc. they are managing, the number of schools they are managing. So you see, any hospital or dispensary, whatever, which is called Send Something, or any school which is called Send Something, is managed by the Catholic Church. The number of those across the continent is huge. So maybe you know that, but I give you another one. Do you know that the Catholic Church is the largest private media owner on the continent?
Private media owner?
Do the math. Do the math. They have radios in any countries, all the countries. In some countries, they have also TVs. But everywhere, in each country. So they are the largest media owner of the continent. Are you surprised? But do the math. Do the maths now.
Okay.
You have radios, Catholic radios in basically all the countries.
All 54.
Basically all. I mean, even if it's only 45 or 45 or 42, who else has
that?
Yes?
Yeah?
Okay. Okay. So you don't know everything, right?
No.
Okay. So you know some stuff, but you don't know everything. Okay. Another thing which people do not realize, I think, is how educated those people are. I mean, the member of the archbishop, bishop, cardinals, those guys speak 3 languages. They have like 1 or 2 doctorates. They are high-level intellectuals.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's one of the things people do not realize. So overall, I attended the General Assembly of SECAM, the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar, here in Ghana a few years ago. And I really think the feeling I have, to be honest, is that it's one of those things where I'm not sure Africa, and I'm talking the population of Africa, actually measure the role the Catholic Church is playing in their daily life. And it's one of those things which we take for granted. But in rural areas, they are the only one to provide healthcare, to provide education. I would tell you something else which maybe is going to blow your mind or whatever, but it seems to me, by my account, from what I can perceive, that the only other organization which compare in terms of, again, its impact on education and on health will be the United Nations.
Okay.
Well, what else? Well, I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
Who else? No, give me another name. So I will tell you this, and I don't have the figures, but just give me something which compare. Yeah, just tell me now. I'm listening. And another thing which I'm going to tell you is, I mean, if just by snapping my finger, I delete from the surface of Africa all the activities which are provided by the Catholic Church. I mean, country fell. You want coup? You're gonna have coup, because not only they are managing schools and hospital and stuff, but studies prove that the satisfaction levels, so the quality of service they are providing, is better than in the public, in the hospital managed by the. You get my point, right?
Yeah.
So if you delete right now, you just erase the Catholic Church from the school system and the healthcare system of all the countries in Africa, you're gonna have trouble. Also, another thing a lot of people do not realize is and that's traditional. It's everywhere. The role the Catholic Church play in mediation between when there is a conflict, political, whatever. You will see that. I know there is a coup in Gabon. You will see that the Catholic Church will be involved at some point, one way or the other.
To mediate.
Yes, they are called to do that almost everywhere, because they are different. When you speak to those guys, they are different. You know, they are just different. They are studying the human soul. They are focusing on that. Tomorrow, in fact, I'm traveling to Cape Coast. I'm going to spend the day with Palmer Bucker, which is the
Palmer Buckle, the Archbishop.
Archbishop. I'm going to spend the day with him. I met him during the SECAM General Assembly. We spoke together. He explained me a lot of things. I want to see what he's doing. I want to go to the countryside with him, etc. And they are giving a lot. They are giving a lot. And it seems that we don't see. It's one of those things where we take for granted, if you wish.
We've seen it around so often. We've not stopped to take stock.
Yeah, so we take that for granted, but I don't know. Maybe you should be a little bit more appreciative, I guess,
of what they do.
So you asked me what surprised me about the Catholic Church. Yeah. I guess it's mostly that. For the rest, I still believe that the values which are promoted by the Catholic Church, they are pushing toward the good side. They are still positive for humanity in
the grand scheme of things.
Yes, absolutely. I still believe that. And we're working with SECAM, but I was discussing with someone the other day. If only we had the Muslim religion and the Jewish religion, they are not structured just like the Roman Catholic Church. You don't have a pope of the Muslim world, you don't have a pope of the Jewish world, etc. If there were, I would hook up a partnership immediately with the Muslim world, with the pope of the Muslim or whatever. We'll do what we do with the Catholic Church. We'll definitely do with the Muslim world, which is a huge part of the African continent. No problem at all. So I think, and I know the Muslim world is doing a lot. Also, you have they have philanthropy, fund stuff, etc., etc. I'm not. It's not a competition or whatever, right? It's just that we enter that discussion with the Catholic Church, and we have decided to work together. So one of the things we are doing is, and in fact, funnily enough, we're doing that for the Catholic Church simultaneously, and for Rugby Africa. So we put together. I told you that the one of the point is professionalization. We need to raise the game, right?
Yeah.
So what we started and we put together, we started 3 months ago. We put together 18 months communication training course, lesson plan. So it's 2 hours, 2 times a month. It's remotely via Zoom. It's in French and in English. We have 150 participants, so trainees from all over the continent.
Yeah.
And those are communication managers of rugby federations in Africa and communication managers of the Catholic Church. So we put together a very comprehensive curriculum, which is the training is provided by some of our staff. So you have the lead on the FIFA account, which is there. You have the lead on the NBA account, on the Nestle account, etc. So very talented people, or head of strategy, or head of content. So very talented people, and they are not like teachers. They are people which are on the ground doing things, So they really share their knowledge and etc. And we also have journalists. So we have some of our journalists we have very good relationship with. We propose them to participate and to share their knowledge. So we have a producer from CNN. We have a head of sport at Al Jazeera. We have journalists from BBC. The head of Africa at Euronews, etc., etc. And so during 18 months, we're going to train those communication managers of the Catholic Church and of Rugby Africa. And when it's come to sport, we're discussing about that. That's the idea. They're going to produce better content, better press releases, better pictures. They're going to learn what is a video B-roll. They're going to learn what is an audio file, how to produce it. And we will distribute all that content to raise the game. We are building capacities, and that's how you do it.
Okay.
That's one of the way to do it. Let's say.
Okay. I'm running out of time with our conversation. Unfortunately, I know. Just when things become a lot more interesting, time begins to creep up.
I need to come back.
Yes, certainly. But my last question to you will be on that person who is looking to start out in either journalism digitally or public relations on a consultancy basis. What would you say to such a person who has the idea, has the dream, wants to go ahead, but is trying to figure out how to begin?
Well, obviously you need the proper training, right? So you need to ideally you go to school and you get a diploma, right?
Yeah.
It's a fact that also these days you can train yourself on. You have a lot of resources on YouTube and those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And you can use technology. I mean, when it's come to drafting a press release today, you have ChatGPT and those kind of things. It's not perfect, but I mean, what I mean by that is, 20 years ago, you had no choice. You have to go to a school and to learn the thing.
Yeah.
Today, if you use the internet, I mean, there must be 300 videos about how to organize an interview, how to organize a press conference, and whatever. So you can learn a lot, for sure. There is that. I suggest you you take all the possible opportunities. I'm talking volunteering, internship, etc., to get a first ground, etc., and that will give you structure and experience, etc. And then, if I understood properly, here we're talking about freelancing, consulting, being your own entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, etc. Well, anyone can create a company. Usually, most of the time, those activities, public relations, are not like regulated. You don't need the FDA approval to establish yourself as a PR practice owner, etc., etc. I mean, depend maybe from one country to the other, but usually you don't need that. So anyone can. You cannot establish yourself as a dentist. I mean, I don't want to be my dentist. I don't want you to be my dentist. Not tomorrow. But tomorrow you could be a PR agency on your own, right? So so you can do that. Now the thing is, then you're becoming an entrepreneur. So the problematic you have is that it's quite easy. It's easy to create a company. What is much more difficult, it's another story entirely, it's another beast entirely, is to develop a company. So most of the public relation agencies in Africa, they are 1, 2, 3 persons. The person creates a company in 2022 or 2023. You come back 10 years after, they have 3 staff. So the difficulty is that. So in Africa...
the scaling, huh?
Yeah, it's very much the situation in Africa. You have a lot of public relation agencies or so-called public relation agencies, right? But they are 1, 2, 3 staff after 5, 10 years of operation. So the stake, the challenge is not really to create your thing, establish your thing, etc. Anyone can do that. I mean, tomorrow you can go and say, well, I'm a PR agency on my own, right? The question is, then you have a company, and are you able to develop your company? And the skills are very different. Yes, that's the idea. But apart from that, it's a very interesting activity. I would say one thing, just to be clear. It is not true that journalists always become good PR practitioners. Those are different skills. It's a different job. So the idea that because I'm a journalist, I can become...
You switch to become no.
It's just not like... It's just it's not true. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that way.
Okay.
But it's a very interesting job. Huh?
Okay, wonderful. Nicolas, we could be here the whole day, but we're out of time. So I thank you so much for joining us for our conversations. We'll do this again. We'll certainly do this again.
Yeah, I'm coming back in a few weeks.
Okay. But we would definitely have this again. I thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank
Wonderful.
you for having me.
That's Nicolas Pompigne-Mognard, the chairman and founder of the APO Group. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'll go for a short break now. When I return, I'll let you have your say briefly before we begin our weekly review. We're back after the break. Stay with us.
Any maame du fi oyɛ dwuma odwo kɛse anopa biara me nua bɛ sɔre ahoɔden mu na ɔkɔdwom saa nso na me bra we fitani o tu engine ni o pagyan